Donald Trump promised to hit John Deere with a 200% tariff on any products not made in the U.S. A tariff is effectively a tax on imported goods and can lead to higher prices.
John Deere took a swing at Trump, and Trump completely lost it. When John Deere dared to defy President Trump, all hell broke loose. This wasn't just a war of words, it was an all-out war for dominance. What could John Deere have possibly done to enrage the most powerful man in the world? How far will Trump go to assert his dominance? And most importantly, how will all these affect you and me? The initial spark. In the bustling world of agriculture and industry, surprises are few and far between. Companies like John Deere, with over a century of legacy, operate with precision and predictability. But every now and then, something happens that catches even the most seasoned observers off guard. It began as a routine corporate announcement, the kind that shareholders and analysts typically scan for financials and growth strategies. Yet, buried within was a message powerful enough to echo from coast to coast and across the political spectrum. John Deere, the heart and soul of rural America, had issued a statement that some interpreted as a direct challenge to policies rooted in Trump's administration. John Deere's move didn't arise in a vacuum. It was a response to evolving challenges in global trade, shifts in demand towards sustainable farming, and mounting pressures from international competitors. Yet, in the high-stakes arena of politics, nuance often gives way to narrative. When the news first broke, it seemed like a bold realignment, a pivot towards embracing newer technologies and more stringent environmental standards. However, to Trump's supporters and several political analysts, it appeared as a veiled critique of the economic policies that had defined his tenure. Trump, renowned for his instinct to engage, saw this as more than a business decision. It was perceived as a direct affront, almost a betrayal, by an entity that had long been synonymous with American ingenuity and industry. The machinery giant's statement was seen as setting a precedent, potentially influencing other corporations in how they align themselves with current or former governmental policies. Trump's reaction. The response from Trump was nothing short of explosive, setting off ripples that quickly turned into waves. At a rally reminiscent of the charged gatherings from his presidential campaigns, Trump took center stage. Flames of outrage flickered in his eyes as he addressed the thousands gathered before him. The energy in the air was electric, supporters hanging on each word. Trump's rhetoric, a blend of indignation and patriotic fervor, framed the situation as a litmus test for loyalty to American ideals. He criticized John Deere not just for their latest stand, but implied a broader disloyalty, suggesting they had turned their back on the very farmers and workers who embodied the backbone of America. In his characteristic manner, Trump didn't just stop at speeches. He took to Truth Social, his platform of choice, where his statements reached millions more in a matter of seconds. Each post was a rallying cry, an urgent call for supporters to recognize what he termed a corporate turncoat. The hashtag spun into trending topics, with Deere disloyal being one of the most fervently discussed online. The public was anything but indifferent. Trump's staunch supporters viewed the confrontation as a new front in the ongoing battle for America's soul. Critics, however, saw it as yet another example of Trump's confrontational style, questioning whether his reaction was truly about corporate policy or more about personal affront and political posturing. The political chessboard. As the drama unfolded, it quickly became a strategic battleground for political figures from both sides of the aisle. Aligning themselves with the cause or distancing themselves from the controversy, politicians saw an opportunity to leverage this unfolding drama to their advantage. For Trump's allies, the messaging was clear: stand united against perceived betrayals from corporate America. These allies echoed Trump's sentiments, decrying John Deere's decision and its implications for the future of the American worker. Meanwhile, adversaries of Trump were equally active, scrutinizing every element of the situation. Some saw an opportunity to cast John Deere as a reflection of market-driven sensibility, a company adapting to the changing climate of international business needs. They questioned whether Trump's policies had truly benefited the industries they were supposed to uplift and protect, or whether John Deere's actions were indicative of policy failures needing reconsideration. In farm states, the situation was particularly delicate. Many farmers, dependent on John Deere machinery, found themselves caught between practical reliance and political engagement. For them, this wasn't just a political sideshow, it was their daily bread at stake. Would siding with Trump jeopardize their business relations with a key equipment provider, or could aligning with Deere's new vision offer a path towards sustainable farming? media frenzy, and speculation. With a conflict of this magnitude and complexity, the media landscape was inevitably ablaze with opinions, speculations, and analyses. From cable news discussions to online think pieces, commentators seized upon the clash. Each outlet, sympathetic or critical, found angles to explore, weaving narratives that fit their audience's appetites. Some focused on the implications for Trump's potential political future, speculating if this confrontation would serve as a rallying cry further energizing his base, or if it exposed vulnerabilities that opponents could exploit. Analysts pondered whether Trump's reactions were strategically sound, a calculated effort to shore up support in rural areas, or impetuous, risking alienation of business-friendly conservatives. Meanwhile, business journalists zeroed in on John Deere, dissecting its financials, recent boardroom shifts, and strategic plans. Were Deere's moves a harbinger of broader corporate trends, prioritizing global market shifts over alignment with political figures, even influential ones such as Trump? Theories range from economic necessity to savvy long-term strategy as experts debated the impacts. In the realm of social media, influencers and everyday users alike added their voices to the cacophony. Hashtags and memes encapsulating the debate flew fast and furious, making the discussion both more accessible and polarized. Overnight, forums and comment threads swelled, with users aligning themselves on either side of this burgeoning divide. Rumors and reactions. Public curiosity did not wane as the days went on, rather it intensified. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered about further developments, hinting at tense communications, internal debates within John Deere, and possible escalations from Trump's camp. Would there be a legal element, regulatory threats, or were there private talks of reconciliation unseen by the public eye? Amid the rumor mill, reactions from smaller companies, industry experts, and community leaders began to surface. Many expressed concern over the divisive climate, but acknowledged that the conflict could be a catalyst for necessary conversations about the role of American businesses in today's political life. Others worried about the precedent set by such confrontations, questioning whether it might deter US-based companies from engaging in politically sensitive dialogues in the future. Yet the populace remained divided. Polling data suggested growing support for more assertive corporate actions aligned with sustainable practices, despite political frictions. This indicated an underlying shift in public expectations, a nuanced landscape suggesting that while some stood by Trump's traditionalist views, a significant portion of the populace was ready to embrace forward-looking corporate strategies. While John Deere maintained a public facade of business as usual, insiders speculated on strategic adjustments, such as potential partnerships with eco-friendly initiatives or even behind-the-scenes lobbying to smooth over political tensions. For now, however, both parties appeared firmly entrenched, each waiting for the other to make the next move. The roots of the issue. As we venture deeper into the origins of the conflict between John Deere and Donald Trump, it's critical to examine the foundational dynamics that brought these two powerhouses to their current impasse. John Deere, with its indelible mark on American agriculture, traces its roots back to the mid-19th century, offering a timeline rich with innovation and adaptation. This legacy parallels the evolution of American industry itself, a journey through the country's transformation from agrarian roots to an era defined by technological advancement and globalization. Donald Trump, by contrast, stormed into the political arena with a promise of revitalization, not of machinery, but of ideals. His pledge to restore American greatness was not just political rhetoric, it was a direct appeal to industries and communities feeling left behind by the tides of change, promising to reclaim jobs and bolster the economy through policies designed to prioritize domestic interests. Yet, within this framework, tensions were inevitable. The global marketplace had moved forward, intricately weaving trade and technology into its fabric. For companies like John Deere, international reach was not a choice, but a necessity. The complexities of global supply chains and market demands meant that even with an America-first agenda, operational strategies required significant global engagement. The tariffs introduced during Trump's administration, aimed at curbing what was perceived as unfair competition and protecting American jobs, brought immediate challenges. John Deere, reliant on global networks for materials and sales, had to navigate these turbulent waters, balancing national loyalty with international pragmatism. These circumstances planted the seeds of tension, as Trump's ambitious economic plans often collided with the realities of modern business practices. Strategic reactions from John Deere. Faced with a direct challenge from one of the most outspoken former presidents, John Deere was thrust into a high-stakes arena. Their initial public statements were crafted meticulously, aiming to reassure stakeholders and diffuse any notion of disloyalty. Emphasizing their commitment to innovation and sustainability, Deere's response underscored a commitment not merely to the past, but to a future aligned with evolving agricultural needs. Internally, the strategy discussions were comprehensive. Executives and communication teams worked fervently to address potential repercussions across markets. Their response was multifaceted, designed not only to address the immediate controversy, but to lay a foundation for strategic growth independent of domestic political shifts. Networking with other industry leaders became a crucial part of their strategy. John Deere quietly initiated talks with tech and sustainability-focused companies, exploring partnerships that could bolster their position in an eco-conscious market. This approach was astute, recognizing the increasing demand for green technology and machinery that promised reduced environmental impact while maintaining efficiency. Moreover, John Deere considered legal and lobbying efforts to shape discourse and policy, engaging with policymakers and advocating for frameworks that supported industry growth without punitive tariffs or disadvantageous trade barriers became pivotal. The aim was clear: position the company as not just a leader in machinery innovation, but as a proactive agent of sustainable and responsible corporate citizenship. Trump's next moves. In the wake of John Deere's response, Donald Trump's strategy unfolded with the precision and unpredictability characteristic of his political style. Trump understood the necessity of keeping this issue in the spotlight, harnessing it to galvanize his base and fortify his political narrative. Behind closed doors, Trump's team likely debated the merit of escalating his rhetoric. Should they push harder, potentially utilizing regulatory pathways to pressure Deere into realigning with his economic policies, or would there be greater mileage in shifting focus to other corporations that might have similar stances? The challenge was to balance addressing the immediate headlines with broader strategic goals and the cultivation of public perception. Throughout his appearances, Trump maintained his narrative of an America besieged by corporate disloyalty. He emphasized the need for vigilance, casting the conflict as a broader symbolic struggle against globalized interests eroding American identity. This approach not only provided a rallying cry for supporters, but reframed the political discourse in terms sympathetic to his cause. Trump's challenges were manifold. Engaging directly with agricultural producers allowed him to present himself as a champion for the American farmer, even as he faced criticism for policies that had, in some instances, led to economic distress within the sector. By focusing on his vision for rejuvenating American manufacturing, he aimed to maintain his grassroots support even when such narratives clashed with empirical economic assessments. Broader economic implications. The economic reverberations of this corporate political conflict were felt across multiple sectors. For the agricultural industry, uncertainty loomed large as stakeholders, ranging from independent farmers to large-scale producers, grappled with the implications for machinery costs, trade partnerships, and market accessibility. Multinational corporations and economic blocs monitored the developments closely, as the conflict between John Deere and Trump provided a template for understanding the risks associated with intertwining business operations and political allegiances. Questions emerged about how companies should strategically navigate the tightrope of domestic allegiance versus international enterprise in an era where political climates are fluid. Investors, too, calibrated their strategies accordingly. Analysts warned of potential market volatility, particularly within sectors sensitive to technological innovation and environmental regulations. Deere's commitment to sustainable practices brought both opportunities and challenges. While appealing to ecological advocates and progressive market segments, it faced skepticism from traditionalist groups resistant to rapid change. Beyond the immediate sphere, this clash fed into the ongoing debate around globalization and nationalism, highlighting the balancing act companies face when nationalistic fervor clashes with global business imperatives. The dialogue wasn't merely transactional, it was a profound reflection on how contemporary businesses would shape or be shaped by evolving political landscapes. As John Deere and Trump publicly maneuvered through this high-profile clash, observers keenly awaited the resulting shifts in strategy, policy, and market dynamics, aware that the resolution would not only affect those immediately involved, but set precedents for future intersections of politics and corporate decision-making. The ripple effect. The dispute between John Deere and Donald Trump quickly escalated from a corporate disagreement to a matter of national interest, sparking conversations and debates across the United States. This conflict, emblematic of the broader friction between traditional industries and modern political landscapes, stirred public curiosity and concern at a time when narratives of national identity were under scrutiny. In regions across the country, particularly in the Midwest, where agriculture is an economic bedrock, the implications were significant. These communities, where John Deere's tractors are as much a part of the landscape as the fields themselves, were suddenly thrust into a conversation about loyalty, progress, and the future of American industry. Local town halls and community gatherings saw fiery debates as residents grappled with the ramifications. Were the policies cherished by some as protective measures actually benefiting these communities, or were they unintentionally stifling growth? Political figures at every level, from city council members to governors, took positions, some in alignment with Trump's critique of corporate America, and others advocating for an approach that embraced innovation and global engagement. As these discussions evolved, they became reflective not only of economic concerns, but of cultural perceptions, testing the fabric of local allegiances and political loyalties. For the Democratic Party, traditionally more aligned with environmental sustainability and corporate accountability, the situation presented both an opportunity and a challenge. On one hand, there was space to push for even more stringent environmental standards and corporate responsibility. On the other, there was the risk of alienating the working class base they actively courted. Republicans, meanwhile, faced their own balancing act, with business-friendly elements of the party questioning the long-term impacts of Trump's aggressive stance against a pillar of American agriculture. Media analysis. Back in the media heartland, the John Deere-Trump saga continued to dominate airwaves and digital platforms. Analysts, reporters, and commentators dissected every new development, each one poised to offer the next sensational headline or in-depth analysis. Some took to exploring the wider implications of corporate actions on climate policy and innovation, while others kept a sharp focus on Trump's political maneuvering and his ongoing charisma-driven influence. Major news networks, often divided along partisan lines, reported and analyzed the dispute through lenses that resonated with their viewership. Channels sympathetic to Trump's worldview echoed his rhetoric, portraying Deere's actions as symptomatic of a broader issue, a lack of corporate patriotism among America's business elite driven exclusively by profit motives. Conversely, outlets aligned with more liberal ideologies were quick to highlight the potential environmental benefits and corporate courage required to stand for sustainability amid political heat. They broke down the potential benefits of Deere's strategy, framing it as a necessary adaptation to climate imperatives, essential for the long-term viability of both the company and the planet. Public debate platforms across social media saw fervent activity, with hashtags perpetually trending as citizens engaged, supported, or contested. The voices varied, from seasoned political pundits to farmers directly impacted by the political climate, each bringing personal perspectives to collectively form a digital agora of modern discourse. Beyond politics and policy, the narrative fed into broader cultural discussions about the role of corporations in society. The balance between profit, social responsibility, and consumer expectation came to the forefront. Scholars and business ethicists penned op-eds, discussed in university seminars, and prompted deeper reflections about corporate accountability and its role in shaping societal norms and expectations. The human angle. Amidst the swirling debates of politics and business strategies, the voices of everyday people who stood at the crossroads of this conflict brought an essential human perspective to the discourse. Farmers, the backbone of America's agricultural heartland, were among those most directly affected by the shifts spurred on by the confrontation between John Deere and Trump. Visitors to rural areas encountered diverse opinions. In small-town cafes and at local fairs, community members shared stories through conversations that reflected genuine concern, hope, and uncertainty. For the older generation of farmers, those who grew up with John Deere equipment, loyalties were as much about nostalgia as they were about practicality. The tractors and harvesters weren't just tools, they were symbols of endurance through decades of labor and prosperity. Younger farmers, many of whom were educated in more sustainable practices and attuned to technological advancements, expressed a nuanced understanding of both sides of the debate. For them, the move towards ecological sustainability was less an option and more a necessity, albeit one that required cautious navigation to ensure profitability didn't suffer unduly. Opportunities for engagement abounded. Town hall meetings and agricultural conferences in states like Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska saw passionate discussions about the future of farming. These sessions were not merely about supporting or opposing figures like Trump or corporations like Deere, but rather holding constructive conversations on how communities could adapt to and thrive within the changing landscapes of agriculture and commerce. De-escalation efforts. As the heated exchanges between John Deere and Donald Trump reached a crescendo, efforts to de-escalate the situation became a matter of urgency. Behind the scenes, business leaders, political influencers, and agricultural lobbyists saw the need to step in, recognizing that prolonging the dispute could have lasting ramifications not only for the involved parties, but for the broader economic landscape. One of the first moves towards reconciliation came quietly from within Deere's own leadership, taking cues from corporations that had successfully navigated political storms. Deere executives quietly initiated conversations with key figures in Trump's circle. The aim was not overt capitulation, but rather finding common ground on which both the company's long-term goals and Trump's vision for American industry could coexist beneficially. Third-party mediators and influential agricultural advocacy groups played a significant role in facilitating dialogue between the two camps. These mediators, often behind-the-scenes power players skilled in negotiation, worked to translate corporate speak and political rhetoric into actionable steps towards compromise. Their efforts highlighted the potential for mutually beneficial outcomes, showcasing scenarios where both Trump's America First ethos and Deere's innovative aspirations could be harmoniously integrated. Additionally, Trump's strategic advisors worked to temper his public statements, advocating for an approach that shifted focus from direct confrontation to broader economic discussions that aligned with his overarching policy proposals, transitioning the narrative towards themes of economic empowerment and technological leadership. They hoped to transform tension into a productive dialogue about the nation's future. Long-term implications. As the immediate turmoil of the conflict began to subside, stakeholders contemplated the long-term implications of such a high-profile confrontation. The saga served as a wake-up call across various sectors, providing valuable lessons about corporate strategy, political engagement, and national identity. For John Deere, the experience underscored the complex balance required between innovation and tradition. The company's future strategies would have to pay heed to maintaining its historic brand loyalty while adapting to new demands of sustainability and global market pressures. This meant greater investments in technologies like precision agriculture, which promised improved efficiency and reduced environmental impact, ensuring Deere's pivotal role in the evolving agricultural landscape. For Trump, the events offered insight into the nuances of business-state relationships. The confrontation highlighted the limitations of confrontational rhetoric when dealing with entities possessing economic clout and social influence. This understanding would likely shape his future interactions with corporate America as he aimed to align political objectives with market realities, ensuring policies that encouraged both economic growth and national solidarity. On a larger scale, the dispute influenced corporate boards and strategists across industries. The realization that business decisions and political climates are interwoven shifted corporate strategies toward more transparent and socially responsible practices. Balancing shareholders' interests with ethical considerations became a priority as businesses sought to navigate the complexities of consumer expectations, government regulations, and environmental sustainability. The conflict also spurred discussions about regulatory frameworks governing corporate and government interactions. Lawmakers and policy analysts began exploring frameworks that encourage corporate accountability while safeguarding innovation and competitive markets. This included legislative initiatives aimed at incentivizing sustainability, reflecting the growing importance of environmental considerations in economic policy making. Potential resolutions. The path towards resolution was anything but straightforward, with multiple scenarios considered and negotiated to arrive at an arrangement beneficial to all involved parties. Each side recognized the stakes, not only in public relations but in setting precedents for how future conflicts might be addressed. One potential resolution lay in collaborative innovation initiatives. John Deere proposed partnerships with educational institutions and government agencies to drive research and development focused on sustainable farming practices. By involving stakeholders from both the private and public sectors, the company aimed to demonstrate its commitment to American agricultural growth, simultaneously bolstering its image and market position. Another possibility involved policy adjustments at the federal level, reflecting a compromise between Trump's economic nationalism and the global realities faced by corporations like Deere. Incentives for US-based companies that invested in both domestic manufacturing and sustainable technologies emerged as a point of consensus, showcasing a governmental effort to balance economic priorities with ecological responsibility. Additionally, bipartisan efforts in Congress worked towards creating a more nurturing environment for businesses that embraced green technologies. By providing tax breaks, funding opportunities, and regulatory easing for industries that aligned with modern environmental standards, lawmakers sought to encourage growth while tackling climate change challenges head-on. As part of their community engagement strategy, local governments, influenced by both corporate input and political leadership, also began programs aimed at supporting family farms transitioning to sustainable practices. This outreach not only addressed economic and environmental issues, but cemented Deere and similar companies' roles in the advancing agricultural frontier. The conflict's legacy. As the dust settled, reflecting on the legacy of the John Deere and Trump saga became essential, offering insights into the evolving dynamics of modern America. The dispute's resolution, through dialogue and mutual understanding, emphasized the strength of collaborative problem-solving in an increasingly polarized world. For John Deere, the journey served as a reaffirmation of its dedication to pioneering agricultural advancement, a reminder that adaptability remains crucial in navigating an ever-shifting market landscape. The company's enduring commitment to innovation suggested a roadmap for future growth based on both heritage and forward-thinking approaches. For Trump, the experience broadened his political repertoire, imparting lessons on diplomacy, corporate engagement, and the art of balancing assertive leadership with consensus building. These insights informed his strategy and rhetoric, painting a vision of America that embraced innovation without sacrificing core values. The broader implications of this saga resonated with individuals and entities far beyond the immediate sphere of conflict. Americans and indeed global citizens were encouraged to contemplate the societal framework supporting economic, environmental, and cultural resilience. The discourse fostered a deeper awareness of the synergistic relationship between politics and business, emphasizing the importance of understanding, compromise, and strategic foresight. Now we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment below.